Hello, how are you all? Today I thought I would do a little bit of colouring and shading with my original artwork, which was called Tenacity and Perseverance. So the girl is called Perseverance and Tenacity is her little leopard that is hanging on her back and helping her through all the rough times, basically. So today I thought I would do a little bit of colouring and shading. This is a PDF that is available on my website, and it's £2.50 for an A4. I'm going to have an A5 size as well, which will be a little bit cheaper. But I thought I would do a little bit of colouring and shading for you today, just to let you see how you can colour it. So I'm using Faber-Castell Polychromos, and I'm basically just going to be using a burnt ochre, Pompeian red, coral, salmon, ivory, walnut brown, a black, beige red, a white, and also a Van Dyke brown. So I'm going to start with the eyes. So it's quite handy if you have yourself a pencil, just an HB pencil. And I'm just going to create a little pupil inside here. Just trying to keep it that it's sort of equal sort of size at either side. And do the same here. And we shall start colouring. So I'm going to start first off with beige. Actually, I'm maybe going to use my Prismacolor. It's a little bit lighter. I'm going to use a Prismacolor, which is peach, but it's not far off the beige red, but whatever you prefer. And I'm going to just start putting down a base colour going around the eye. Now, I'll start off light. And I use light circular motions just to help get the pigment of the pencil colour onto the paper without burnishing it just now. And so basically just going around the outside just to put down a first sort of layer. And when I'm doing this, it helps me to see where I want the lighter areas to be on his face. So I'm going to go down the side of his cheek as well. And by doing that, I'm creating just a little area that's going to be a little bit white underneath his eye. And do the same here. So basically, just going around all of the outside lines with that first layer. Maybe put a little bit up on his ear as well. And bringing some of this around his eye as well. Right, you can't really see much, so I think what I'll do is I'll start doing some of his eye. So I'm going to use a burnt ochre and start putting in a base colour in his eye. So I'm going to have it that it's at its darkest on the outside and just underneath the pupil, and then there's a little area that's going to have a little bit of white, which allows me to get a little bit of a sparkle in there. So do the same on the other eye as well. And then once I've done that, with the same pencil, I'm going to darken, just emphasise that line for the eye and just put a few little squiggles in just every now and again. Just keeping that outside line dark, and then making it a little bit darker at the top here where there's a shadow, and bringing it over into the white of his eye as well. So just doing the same on this one as well. And then a little bit of a shadow going along the white. And coming into this a little bit. And then I'm going to use like a walnut brown. And I'm just going to turn him around a little bit so that he's facing me more. Now I'm going to use this walnut brown just to go over this pale line. So I like to have my PDFs in a pale line to allow you to draw over the top, to help build up your confidence for putting a pencil on paper and just drawing over the top of the lines. But it also helps you to manipulate it a little bit and change it a little bit. So if you wanted to make some changes to the eye, it would be a bit easier for you to do that. So I'm going to create a sparkle in there just by using my brown pencil, and then maybe just doing like a kidney bean shape, and maybe a little one here. And then I'm just going to lightly use this brown to fill in the pupil. Now I'll eventually come back and darken this up, put some black or maybe some indigo blue in over the top of the brown, just to get the darkness into the pupil. Now at this point, if you think, oh, I could do with the pupil being a bit bigger, just use your pencil just to emphasize it a bit more and make it a little bit bigger. So there's a little line in here that I want to emphasize. So eventually I'll be coming in here with blacks to make that really dark, but at the minute the brown will be enough. And I'm also going to use the brown just to go over this line as well. And I'm going to go back to my burnt ochre and start to put a little bit of colour in here, just underneath his eye, and start to darken that up. And just going around where that line, that brown line is, and that just emphasises that little area. And then I'm going to come back out to the outside and then start to create some colour that's coming in from the side into his face. And just keeping it nice and light. It's quite easy to think, oh, I need to go down hard to instantly get an impact, but you get a nicer finish if you just take your time, do it slowly, in layer by layer. And you can then build colour, you can layer different colours up on top as well. So I want to leave a little white area there for under his eye, and I'm just going to emphasise this area around his eye just by going around the line, little circular motions, following it around. Hopefully you can see that starting to come together. So I'm going to do the same on the other eye now. So with my walnut brown, I'm just going to go over this line. And again, create a little sparkle in there. Now you can do your sparkles later on if you have like a gel pen or a Posca pen or something like that. And just colour it in completely and then just go over the top of it with a white or white paint. Acrylic paint or something like that. As long as you're just using a tiny little bit, it won't warp your paper too much. Depending on what paper you use, of course. If you're using like a watercolour card or anything like that, then you know you can use as much paint as you like on it. Right, so I might just change the shape of his. And then again with this pencil following this line as well, just to emphasize that line. And then coming down this line here for his eye, and of course this line here. So I'm going to use the walnut brown as well, just to darken up this outside line on his eye a little bit, just faintly. And same here. Right, I'm going to now go back to the burnt ochre and start to put a little bit of colour coming around his nose. So I'm going to use this line here as my guide on his nose and just colour it completely with this colour. And then just circular motions going around the outside, and same here. So you've got that little bit. And then I'm going to do the same going down either side of his mouth and a little bit just underneath here. And then when I bring in my black, oops, sorry, I'm hitting the camera, then that'll just darken up his mouth. Right, I want to get a little bit of his nose done as well, so I'm going in with my walnut brown, and like these areas here are his nostrils, so I'm just going to go around them for now. You don't really want them to be completely white, but you want a little bit where you've got a little bit of a shine. And then I'm going to have a little bit of a shine going along the top of his nose, so I'm just going to put a little line in there. And then just darken that up a little bit. And when we've got our black going in over the top of that, I'm just going to emphasize that again. And then just going over the top with the black. We've got that little area up there that's now got the white. And it's just a case of going around and just continuing to add more and more layers until it gets really, really black in there. And eventually, if you press down hard, then you'll get that burnishing where you're pushing all the colours together onto the page, making them more vibrant and creating a little bit of a shine. I'm just going to bring this I'll come back and do more layers on that in a little while. And press down a little bit harder on it. In the meantime, I get my walnut brown again, and I want to emphasise this line here on his head with the brown. And I want to emphasise this little line here as well. And I'm going to go back to my burnt ochre and do the same here under this eye, so starting to darken up in here, and just every now and again come back and just get that bit a little bit darker, because the colours tend to go into the paper after a little while. So after you've put your first layers down, like I can see now, I've got a whole lot more layers to start putting into his eye because it's really faded out. So just going around all of the outside of his eye with this one. and the outside of his face. So I'm kind of leaving it, there's a little white bit going on just under his eye, so I'm just going to fill this little area until I get a little bit that's going to have just a little bit of white. Right, I'm going to do a little bit in his ear. Let me just bring a little bit of this first up round here. You put more and more layers on, and you can get a little bit of value starting to build up in your artwork just by having areas that are a little bit darker in here, and then it gets lighter as it comes out. Right, I'm going to put a little bit of pink in his ear, so I'm going to go back to the beige red. I'm starting off with the lightest colour and start to fill in some of his ear. So mostly going around the outside, maybe just about there, and then you can't really see in there. Do the same on the other one. I'm going to have most of the pink just on here at the bottom on this one. So that's the first layer, and then moving up a shade with the pink, and I'm using coral, and I'm going to do more of the same. Going back in here and darkening this area up. And so by doing this, you've got a little bit of the lighter tone underneath, and then you've got some white there. So it just helps it to not be a block colour, helps it look a little bit more realistic and a bit softer. So I'm just darkening it up in there, and maybe coming down here and just creating a little bit of pink in there as well. How are we doing? We're getting there. So I'm going to go back to my burnt ochre and get some colour onto his head, and then we're going to create some little spots on there. So just get a little bit of his ear as well. Just come down. So I'm going to be doing these quite regularly in my group, which is drawing and creating with a dash of D, putting up a prompt which will be centered around a PDF that you can access from our website. But if you're a subscriber, sorry, you get the PDF for free, and you just print it off at home and then colour it and shade it however way you like, and then put it in my group. And it's quite nice when you start to see lots of people putting in their interpretation of the same image. See how different they look. Because I like to leave areas as well, so if you wanted to put something on his head with your own drawing, you could do that. Or you could create more of a background with trees and things like that. I've just got a little bit of pencil on here that I just want to rub away. So this will be the first one. I've got quite a few lined up for in the group. Right, so we've got a little bit of brown, so I want to keep a white area going on along here. I'm just just going to fill a little bit more here maybe. And maybe a little bit more here. I've got bits of rubber sitting on the picture. So we've got this little white area which I want to keep white, but I'm just going to emphasize the end of it a little bit just by darkening it up a little bit. And then if you have either your normal pencil or if you want to use a darker brown, just create some little, not circles, but just little marks that would be on his head. Just have them sort of staggered around. Just to give him his spots. And you can keep darkening them up once you've got the shapes that you want them to be. Put one there. Maybe have one that it's on the top of his head that you can hardly see there. So he's starting to get his little spots. Right, and so now we've kind of got the shape of how we want his face. It's just a case of going around with more layers. I still want to bring my ochre in here into this area, just to darken up this bit, and the same coming around here. And a little bit on his chin. Just around his mouth. On either side of his lips. Just having it a little bit longer in the middle. And still bringing a little bit down here. Darkening up around his ear. So I'm basically just going all the way around the outsides, darkening it up, and just adding an extra layer to help make his face look round. And each time I go around, I'm just adding another layer. So rather than pressing down hard and trying to get all your colour down at once, just going over it and over it again lightly. You can see now how that's starting to darken up just by doing more layers. So this is just showing you how you can colour a little whimsical leopard. Hopefully you'll fancy having a go. Just more and more. So I'm just going to add a little bit of orange. Actually, I didn't mention orange at the start. And I just need to quickly sharpen it. Oh, actually, I've got one here that doesn't need sharpening. And just adding a little bit of orange into his eyes. So just every now and again, just a little squiggle of orange, just to give him a little bit of added extra in his eye. Little squiggles every now and again, and then I'm going to darken up the pupil and around his eye. So with black now, I'm going in over the top of where we did the brown. And I'm starting to press down hard in the pupil to make it really shiny and black and really dark. Using this black to emphasize that line and really darken and deepen it up. Now, if you can't be bothered doing it with your black pencil, you can always just go in with a fine liner to create that sort of black, deep black in there, but I quite like building it up. And I just might make his pupil just a little bit bigger there. Right, same on the other one. Now for the next part, I'm going to start colouring the girl, doing some of her face. So do it in just little dribs and drabs, because this is an A4 size, so it takes quite a while. So, but I'm going to have some A5s available as well, so it's not just as big if you're not so sure. If you're doing it for the first time, you might prefer a smaller image. So we'll work our way through and get all of it done. So just now I'm going to darken up different parts in the nose, so making it a little bit darker right at the bottom and shining up here at the top, and then just trying to add a few more layers with the rest of it. Might darken it here, going into the nostril as well, and then I want to make it just a little bit darker right down here at the bottom. I'm going to just darken this area as well. So I find that if you just keep going over this line, because every time you add more layers, it's nice to just darken up the line that emphasizes the eye, just to make the eye come alive. So I'm just darkening right in at the inside and letting the rest be a little bit fainter. Right, I'm just going to turn them around a little bit. I want to put a little bit of black in here on his ear, and same in here, just to darken those little areas a bit, to make it look like there's a bit of depth in there. And I'm going to go to a darker pink again and start to deepen that little area in his ear. Now it might need a few more lighter layers again, because they've started to fade out a bit. And I'm going to use my Van Dyke Brown just to darken a few areas around the side and just drag a little bit of the darkness in. again, just to create that feeling of his face being round. And it's quite nice to have a little shiny area on his ear. So just find a little space on his ear where you fancy having it just a little bit lighter. Same here. So this is going to be her hair coming down onto his face a little bit. So you want a bit of a shadow in there to let you see that there's something coming over. So just maybe make that a little bit darker in there. Just softly drag a little bit of colour out. And then if you want to put a little bit of black in here just to show that there's a bit of a shadow starting to come from her hair. And the same here around that ear. So I'm going back to my ochre. I could do with my burnt sienna actually as well. So yeah, bringing in a burnt sienna. This is really nice warm tone, so it's quite nice to get that into the eyes. In the bits where you want it a little bit darker. And going around that outside again. Just keep darkening that up. So I hope you can see by having the pale ink outline, you can really make it look more like a drawing rather than a printed image. Which is quite nice. I'm just going to bring some of this into his ear as well, actually. Just to darken that up a little bit. Maybe a bit there. And maybe just with this, just darkening up a little bit, just these little bits around his nose, just at the bottom. And maybe a little bit coming down the side of his mouth. And then again, I'm going to go in with my black and darken that up again. So in the inside where it's a little bit white, I'm going to use an ivory. Just to make it look more finished as well. And make it look like you just haven't forgotten to colour that bit. So ivory going around the outside sort of area, and then I'll do some white right in the centre. Put some in his ears as well. And then I'm going to use a white right in the centre. I'm going to put some white in his eyes as well. And just whiten up that little shiny bit as well. And then it's a case of just continuing to layer it up until you get it as dark or as vibrant as you want. So I'm now going in and darken up this little bit again. And then I'm just going to darken up around his eye to bring that a little bit more to life. Maybe put a little line there. So I've now started to burnish this bit here, so I'm just pressing in quite hard. And if you wanted to give him fancy eyelashes or just add a little bit more detail around his eye, you can do that. Look, I've now took that out to the side a little bit. I should sharpen it again now, but I just want to put another little line there and then start to add more colour. Just layer upon layer, just keep building it up. So this has been the same colour, the same pencil in all of this area. But you can see how you can get different tones just by applying more pressure in areas and less in others. Just going to darken up his ear a little bit in there. I just want to have a little bit more colour coming out, even though I've darkened up that area, just have a little bit more of this colour coming out, but just not burnishing it, just not pressing down hard, so it just adds a bit more to the dimension. I'm just going to darken up in here as well. So I'll have this video up into the subscription area on my website. So just darkening up inside his eyes now as well. So it needs a lot more layers. Just a case of going over it and over it. But we've kind of got the shape and the dimension. So it's just a case of just adding more and more layers. And I'm hoping that's something that you'll quite enjoy doing just in your own time. Hopefully I've given you something to keep you going. Might bring in a little bit of red in here as well. So I've still got his body to do and the girl as well. But we've made a start, so hopefully that's something that you will enjoy in the subscription area. We'll keep cracking away at it, and I shall look forward to doing the next one where we'll be doing either the body or the girl's face, but we'll just work our way through and get all of it done. Thank you everybody. Bye bye.